walks in on a Tuesday, which is somehow worse than a Monday. Monday, you expect disruption. Monday has the decency to announce itself. But Tuesday, you're already inside the week, already moving, already trusting the shape of things. And then a man in a very good suit steps off the elevator and smiles at the room like he owns it. And the room smiles back because the room doesn't know yet. I know. I've known for 11 days. I'm standing at the glass wall of the conference room when he comes through the main doors. Petra 3 steps behind me with a tablet, and the particular expression she makes when she already has opinions. Marcus Hale, 41, former managing director at Stonebridge Partners. Before that, a brief and luminous stint at Meridian, where he took a struggling portfolio company from Series C to acquisition in under 18 months. The board loves the number. They always love the number. What the board does not know, what Marcus Hale absolutely does not know, is that the strategy behind that Meridian acquisition was built on a framework I published in a white paper 3 years ago, presented at the Lausanne conference, cited twice in the Harvard Business Review. I know every lever in his playbook because I wrote the manual first. Petra leans close. He's taller than his LinkedIn photo. They always are, I say. Is that a problem? I watch him cross the floor. He moves the way certain men do when they've never been in a room and found it unwelcoming. Easy, unhurried, already assuming he'll be met halfway. He pauses to say something to the front desk, and the woman there laughs, and he laughs too, and it's genuine, which is interesting. I file it away. Not even slightly, I say, and I turn back to my notes. His first act as co-CEO is to call a town hall for Thursday. His second is to ask to be copied on my division's pipeline reports. Petra brings me the email request at 4 p.m. with one eyebrow raised. I read it. I notice the language. To get up to speed as quickly as possible, and would love to align on Vivien's team's priorities. Vivien's team, not the strategy team. Vivien's team. Already making it smaller, already cordoning it into a possessive, already signaling, subtly, plausibly, in a way no one could object to, that it is a subset of a larger thing he will be running. Forward it to him with the last 3 quarters, I say, and the one from 18 months ago, the one where we were wrong about the Dalton acquisition. Petra pauses. You want him to see where we were wrong? I want him to see that we know where we were wrong. There's a difference. She types for a moment. Done. Anything else? Book us a coffee for Friday, I say. His office, his turf. Let him feel comfortable. She looks at me for a beat. You're doing the thing. I'm not doing anything yet. You're doing the thing where you're completely still and everyone around you is moving, she says. And then later, they're all very confused about how they ended up exactly where you wanted them. I smile at my notes. Get me the coffee. That night, I stay late. The office empties floor by floor, lights going out in sections, and I sit at my desk with the S1 draft open on my screen, the version the board circulated 2 weeks ago, the one with my name in the acknowledgments section only, buried under 3 lines of boilerplate, not in the narrative, not in the founder and architect language, just, with thanks to the strategy team. The team. I read the filing again. I underline every decision point in the last 4 years of the company's growth. The Series C pivot. The 2 failed product lines we killed before they became catastrophes. The acquisition thesis that added $60 million in revenue. The data moat strategy that is currently the single most valuable structural asset going into IPO. I wrote all of it. I can prove all of it. And if Marcus Hale is going to stand at the roadshow podium and present a company he has known for 4 days, as though he is its architect, then I am going to need to work very, very quickly. I turn off my monitor. The office is quiet, and through the window the city is the dark blue it goes at 9:30, just before the night properly arrives. 42 days. I put on my coat and I go home, and I do not feel afraid. I feel the particular sharpness that comes before something begins, the kind that lives in the chest like a tuning fork, when someone has just struck the note you've been waiting for. Thursday's town hall is, architecturally, a masterpiece of subtlety. I sit in the 3rd row, center, close enough to see the detail, far enough not to seem eager. Petra is to my left. Around me, the company arranges itself in the tiered rows of the main auditorium. 67 people, most of whom have been here long enough to have an opinion and smart enough to know this isn't the moment for it. Marcus speaks for 22 minutes. I time it. He is good. I'll say that clearly and without bitterness, because accuracy is everything. He is very good. He has the voice for it, unhurried, warm, the kind that lets silence sit without filling it immediately, which is rarer than it should be. He talks about the company's potential without condescending to the people who built it. He talks about the IPO, not as an endpoint, but as a beginning, and he says, "Every person in this room is the reason this company is worth taking public. My job is just to make sure the world understands what you've already built." And he looks, at that precise moment, directly at me. Not the lingering look of someone cataloging a thread, something else. A flicker of genuine interest, or perhaps recognition. Like he's seen me in a file somewhere and is now recalibrating the file against the reality. I hold his gaze for exactly 2 seconds, and then I look down at my notepad and write. Good instincts, watches the room while speaking, identified me before the introduction. That last part matters. It means he was briefed. It means Diana told him who to watch. I write. Diana's brief likely framed me as legacy resistance. He's deciding if that's accurate. And then, let him decide wrong. After the hall, people cluster around him the way they always do after a good opening. Not sycophancy exactly, but a kind of relief. The collective exhale of a company that was nervous about the transition, and is now less so. I don't join the cluster. I wait until the room thins, and then I catch him near the water station, just the two of us and a departing engineer. And I extend my hand. Vivien Calloway, I say, VP of Strategy. Welcome to Ardent. He takes my hand. His handshake is what his LinkedIn photo suggested it would be. Firm, neither testing nor overclaiming, which is the very hardest register to land. Marcus Hale, I've read your work. There it is. Which work? I ask, pleasant, curious, giving nothing. The data moat thesis. The one that became the backbone of the Series D pitch. He pauses, with the smile of someone deciding how much of his hand to show. And the Lausanne paper. I feel the tuning fork ring. He knows. He knows the source. And he is telling me he knows, which means one of two things. He is being honest, or he is testing whether I'll be disarmed by it. Old work, I say. I've refined the framework considerably since then. I'd love to hear how, he says. Friday coffee? Already on the calendar, I say. See you then. I walk back to my office. Petra is waiting outside it with the expression she makes when something has confirmed her suspicions. Well, she says, he's read my white paper. Is that good or bad? I think about the look he gave me in the auditorium, the recalibration, the Lausanne reference, offered without performance, like a coin placed on a table between two people who both know what it means. I don't know yet, I say. Get me everything Diana Hale said at the last board meeting. The Friday coffee is at 9, and I am there at 5:02. I don't do this to demonstrate punctuality. I do it because I want to see how he enters his own space. The office that was cleared out and refurnished in 4 days. The clean desk. The single-framed photograph I can see from the doorway. His parents, a sailboat, Greek light, filed away. I want to know if he unpacks first or sits down and begins immediately. I want to know which books are on the shelf. There are 6. 2 are strategy texts I own. 1 is a novel, Stendhal, The Red and the Black, which I find almost too on the nose, and then decide is either ironic self-awareness or genuine confidence, and either is interesting. 1 is a thin volume of poetry by a Polish writer I've never heard of. I'm still trying to read the spine when he comes through the door and catches me looking. Szymborska, he says. My mother's. She'd be disappointed if it wasn't on the shelf. Is she a poet? She's a judge, he says, but she thinks precision matters in all languages. He sets down 2 coffees. He has carried them himself from the kitchen, which I note, and gestures at the chair across from his. Sit. We talk for 40 minutes. He asks smart questions. Not the questions of someone performing competence, but the real ones. The ones that show he has already done the structural reading and is now testing the gaps against a live source. He asks about the Datamote's longevity past IPO. He asks about the 2 failed product lines and what I learned. He asks carefully how I would describe the relationship between my division and the board. Productive, I say. He smiles. That's not what Diana told me. And there it is. The test, laid directly on the table. He is seeing if I'll be honest, or if I'll perform. I pour the last of my coffee. Diana and I disagree about the pace of the monetization strategy. She wants a cleaner number story for the roadshow. I want an honest one. Those are different things. He's quiet for a moment. Then, and which one wins? The one with a better argument, I say, usually. He looks at me the way people do when they've spent 20 minutes estimating you and just revised upward. I notice it, and I file it, and I do not show that I've noticed, because that would give him something too soon. What I am beginning to understand, and this is not part of any plan, it is simply an observation arriving without my permission, is that Marcus Hale is not what Diana's brief described. He is not here to execute a removal, or perhaps he was when he arrived. But he is also genuinely curious. He is recalibrating in real time, and the recalibration is not entirely strategic. I leave his office at 9:45. Petra is at her desk, and she looks up and reads my face. "How was it?" she asks. I sit down at my desk and open my laptop. "Get me the board's email thread from November, the one where they discussed the co-CEO announcement." "Already pulled it," she says. "I sent it last night." I open it. I read it carefully. Diana Hale's language is precise and careful and very, very deliberate. And halfway through the thread, I find the line I was afraid I would find. Vivien's IP is ours. The framework attribution can be managed at filing. Managed. I close my laptop. The office is quiet outside my glass wall. People moving. The ordinary machine of the day turning. 40 days. "Petra," I say. "Already on it," she says without looking up. The board dinner is at a restaurant in the financial district that costs enough to signal seriousness without requiring it of you. And I arrive in the charcoal dress and the single good earring. The left one. The one that has always been slightly too large. The one I've been meaning to replace for 2 years and somehow never have. Diana Hale is at the bar when I arrive, and she is looking at me the way she always does, with the expression of someone who has already decided the outcome and is simply waiting for events to confirm her. She is elegant, 60, and almost frighteningly good at making the person she is speaking to feel like they are exactly where she wants them. "Vivien," she says, "you look well." "Thank you, Diana," I say. "You too." We air kiss. I smell her perfume, something dark and floral, old money, the kind that costs $400 for 30 milliliters and is never discussed. And I think, she's been running this board for 7 years. She has survived 3 CEO transitions, 2 failed acquisitions, and a near collapse in year 2 that most people don't know about because Diana personally ensured it was managed quietly. She is not a villain. She is a woman who has operated in a world that rewards decisiveness and mistakes control for strength, and she has become very, very good at control, which means I cannot fight her directly. Direct opposition will confirm the legacy resistance narrative she's built around me. I have to let her play the hand she thinks she's holding. Dinner is 12 people. The board, a few senior staff, Marcus. He sits across the table and 3 seats to the left, which means I can see him at an angle. And twice during the dinner, I glance over and find him already watching the conversation between me and Diana, with the careful attention of someone who is revising their understanding of the room. Diana steers the conversation to the roadshow narrative around the second course. She does it elegantly, a pivot from revenue projections to storytelling, from numbers to the human story of the company's founding. She talks about leadership transitions as natural evolution. She talks about the importance of a clear, unified voice for investors. She does not look at me while she says any of this. She doesn't have to. "Vivien," says one of the other board members, a man named Theodore, who I have always found harmlessly well-intentioned. You've been the intellectual engine of the strategy side for years. What do you think the roadshow narrative should center on? I set down my fork. I let the silence sit exactly long enough. The data mode, I say. It's the single most defensible competitive advantage we have, and it's the reason our retention numbers look the way they do. Investors who understand software will want to go deep on it. That's the story that survives scrutiny. And who presents that piece? Theodore asks. Whoever can answer the hardest question at the end, I say. That should be the test. A small silence. Marcus, across the table, almost smiles. Diana refills her wine. A lovely idea, she says in the tone she uses when something is already decided, and she is simply allowing the appearance of discussion. I look at her and I smile back and I think, 40 days. And you've just told me where you're most afraid. 3 weeks in, something shifts. It begins small. A Tuesday afternoon. A hallway near the kitchen. Marcus, coming from a board call that I can tell from 40 feet away has gone badly. He has the particular set to his jaw that I've cataloged over the past weeks. The slight forward pressure. The way he holds his phone like it has offended him. He sees me and doesn't rearrange his face fast enough. Long call, I say. Diana's moving the roadshow timeline, he says, which is 3 words more than he means to give me, and we both know it. I stop walking. Forward or back? Forward. 2 weeks. She wants the S1 filed by end of this month. I do the math. The S1 filed early means the attribution language locks before I can get my documentation in front of the right people. It means the framework ownership question becomes a matter of public record before I've had the conversation that needs to happen. Diana has just cut my 40 days to 26. I feel it. A cold, specific thing. Not panic, but its more useful cousin. Precision under pressure. That changes the narrative timeline, I say, carefully neutral. It changes a lot of things, Marcus says, and then he looks at me in the way he's been doing more and more lately, like he's standing at a door he can't decide whether to open. The attribution language in the current S1 draft. I read it. My pulse does one careful, controlled thing. And it doesn't reflect what I know to be true about where the IP originated. He says it plainly, no decoration holding my gaze. I wanted you to know that I've read the Lausanne paper, and the Series D memo, and the internal strategy archives going back 4 years. I know who built this. I look at him for a long moment. Outside the kitchen window, rain is starting, the particular gray drizzle of the city in November, the kind that makes the glass look silver. Why are you telling me this? I ask. Because I was brought in to do a job, he says. And I'm not sure anymore that the job I was brought in to do is the job I'm willing to do. I stand there and I feel something complicated move through me. Relief and suspicion. And the specific danger of wanting to believe someone before you've confirmed you should. I have been reading this man for weeks. I've been reading him as a controlled performance. And what I'm looking at right now is not a performance. Don't tell me anything you're not prepared to act on, I say. He nods. Once. The way people do when they've already decided. I go back to my desk. The rain runs down the window in long silver lines. Petra brings me tea without being asked, which means she was watching from across the floor, and she sets it down without saying anything, which is her highest form of respect. He's going to be a problem, she says finally. Yes, I say, but not the kind I planned for. Petra Volkov has been my assistant for 3 years, and in that time she has been wrong about a person exactly once. It was a lawyer from the Chicago office, and she apologized for it afterward with such spectacular precision that I almost found it worse. She comes to me the next morning with the tea, and the expression that means she has been thinking overnight. He had a 40-minute call with an outside attorney yesterday, she says. Not the company's counsel, his own. I set down my pen. How do you know? He used his cell and the office line simultaneously, which he only does when he wants one call to cover the metadata of another. I noticed the pattern on day 3. I look at her. You noticed the pattern on day 3 and you're telling me now. I needed to know what kind of attorney before I told you. She sets the tablet on my desk. Employment and IP, specifically IP origination in VC-backed companies. And there is the thing I have been waiting for. Not the confirmation of an ally, which I cannot yet afford to trust, but the confirmation of a man who is making moves that cost him something. You don't hire outside IP counsel and keep it quiet, unless you're preparing to push back against the company you just joined. You don't do that lightly. You don't do it performatively. He's building his own documentation, I say. Looks like it, Petra says, which either means he's going to use it against you, or he's building a case to use it for me. I sit back. The rain is gone today, replaced by thin winter sunlight that falls across my desk in a narrow bar. What else? Diana called him at 7 this morning. He let it go to voicemail. I feel the tuning fork ring again, a clean, precise sound. How many times has he done that? 3rd time this week. I stand up and go to the window. Below, the street is ordinary. People, a delivery van, a woman walking a dog the color of autumn. I think about Marcus Hale on day 1, walking across the lobby with the easy confidence of a man who has never been wrong about a room. I think about him 3 weeks later, making quiet calls to attorneys he isn't declaring, letting Diana's calls ring out. People who intend to do harm do not hire outside counsel to establish prior ownership. They bury the evidence. They don't excavate it. I need to talk to him, I say. Not in the building. There's a coffee place 2 blocks north, Petra says. He goes there on Thursdays at 7:30, alone. I turn from the window. Were you planning this? She picks up my empty mug. I was preparing for multiple eventualities, she says, and goes to get more tea. He's there when I arrive, which means he left early or he knew, and I find I don't particularly mind which. He's in the corner, jacket on a chair, both hands around a coffee cup, reading something on his phone with the concentrated frown of a man who is not enjoying what he's reading. He looks up when I come through the door, and the frown clears into something more complicated. Petra told you, he says. Petra prepares for multiple eventualities, I say, and sit across from him. He signals for another coffee. We wait while it arrives, and there is a silence between us that is not uncomfortable. The kind that belongs to 2 people who have been in the same room long enough to know the other's weight, without needing to fill the air around it. I need to tell you something, he says. I know, I say. He looks at me. You know what I'm going to say. I know you hired outside IP counsel. I know you've been building documentation. I know Diana accelerated the S1 timeline to close the window before you could act on whatever you've been building. I wrap both hands around my coffee. I don't know if you're building it for me or against me. I've gone back and forth. A long, quiet moment. Outside, the street does its ordinary morning things. Buses, footsteps, a dog, someone's phone. The coffee shop is warm and smells of something baking, dark sugar, and vanilla. 4, he says, clearly. Why? He doesn't answer immediately, which I respect. He is not a man who gives easy answers to hard questions just to fill the silence. He turns his cup in his hands, a movement I've noticed him make before, when he's deciding how much of himself to put in a sentence. Because I was told you were the problem, he says, and I came here to manage the problem. And instead I found out that the problem is the only person in the building who actually built the thing everyone's trying to take credit for. He pauses. And I find I'm not interested in being the person who makes that happen. I look at him. Outside, a bus goes past and the window fogs slightly and clears. That's not the only reason, I say. He meets my eyes. No, he says. It's not. I drink my coffee. My chest does something complicated and I let it, because pretending it isn't happening would be its own kind of lie, and I am very tired of managing things I'm not supposed to let myself have. Whatever the other reason is, I say carefully, it needs to wait. 26 days. 25, he says. I know, I'm counting too. I stand up and put on my coat. The attorney, What's his name? Her, Caroline Voss, IP Origination Specialist, 12 years in venture-backed tech. Is she good? She's the one Diana uses, he says, or used to. I button my coat. Outside the window, the winter light is thin and bright, the way it gets when the air is clean and cold. Then she knows exactly what to look for. I leave him there with his coffee, and I walk back to the building in the cold morning air, and I don't let myself think about the other reason yet. I put it somewhere specific, a small, carefully labeled drawer, and I tell it to wait 25 days. It waits, barely. With 2 weeks left, something strange happens. It almost feels over. Caroline Voss's documentation is complete. Marcus has it. It is 94 pages of email chains, time-stamped strategy documents, presentation decks, board minutes, and 3 external citations that link every major strategic decision in Ardent's last 4 years back to a framework with a clear, datable, publicly documented origin. Mine, the Lausanne paper, cited in the HBR, presented before the company even existed at its current valuation. Diana doesn't know about Caroline Voss yet. She will find out. She always finds out. But not until we choose to make it known, which will be at the board meeting in 7 days. The S1 filing window is still open. We have time. And so, for 4 days, the office does something I haven't experienced in 6 weeks. It breathes. Marcus and I fall into a rhythm that I'm not sure either of us planned. Morning coffee on Tuesdays and Thursdays, sometimes at the corner place, sometimes in the kitchen, once in his office with both our laptops open, and Petra checking in every 40 minutes with the air of a person who is professionally pretending not to notice something. We work on the roadshow narrative together, and the work is, I find a word and discard it and find another. Good. Real. The kind of working collaboration I stopped believing I'd have years ago, where someone else's intelligence actually improves your thinking instead of just competing with it. One evening, staying late, he hands me a printout of the roadshow deck's opening slide. I've not seen it before. I read it and look up at him, and he is watching my face. You changed the architect credit, I say. I corrected it, he says. The slide reads, Ardent Capital's growth thesis, originated and developed by Vivien Calloway, VP of Strategy, in partnership with founding team. I set it down on the desk. The office is quiet, the last light going in the windows, the city beginning its evening shimmer. I have been holding something tightly for 6 weeks, and I am aware, right now, in this particular quality of light, that I'm very close to letting go of it. Thank you, I say. It's just accurate, he says. I know, I say. Thank you anyway. He looks at me for a moment, that look that has been becoming something I can no longer misread as professional. Vivien? 7 days, I say softly. He exhales. Right. It is the closest we come to what we're not yet saying. It is warm and quiet and almost resolved, and I go home that night with the feeling of a person who is walking on ice that has been holding all week, solid underfoot, and the other shore is visible. I should know better than to trust the feeling of solid ground. I find out on a Monday morning at 6:47 from an email that Diana Hale sent to the full board at 6:30. Subject, regarding the S1 attribution language, urgent revision request. I read it twice. Then I call Marcus. He picks up on the first ring, which means he's already seen it. She knows about Caroline Voss, he says before I can speak. How? She has someone in the filing office. She saw the engagement letter. A pause. Vivien. She's going to the board this morning with a counter-argument. She's calling the documentation a performance of ownership. She's arguing that internal strategy documents don't constitute IP origination under the company's founding agreements. I sit down. The kitchen is cold, the coffee unmade, the morning gray through the window. The founding agreements. There's a clause, Section 14C. She had it drafted in year 1. It says all strategic frameworks developed in the course of employment belong to the company, not the individual. I am quiet for a moment. I know the clause, I say. I helped draft it. It refers to frameworks developed for client work, not frameworks developed before my employment and later adopted by the company. Can you prove that distinction? The Lausanne paper has a publication date of March 2021, I say. I didn't join Ardent until September 2021, 6 months prior. A silence. Then a breath that sounds like relief and something else under it. She doesn't know about the publication date? She knows, I say. She's hoping the board won't make her cite it specifically. She's hoping the language of the clause sounds broad enough to foreclose the conversation before it gets there. We need to be in that room, he says. Yes, I say. We do. I make the coffee. My hands are steady. I am past the point where fear is useful. I am in the space where everything clarifies, where the ground that felt solid is gone, and I am simply moving, which is better than standing on ice and hoping. I think about the deck slide he showed me, the corrected credit, originated and developed by Vivien Calloway. I think if Diana wins this morning, that slide never leaves this office. I put on my coat. I send Petra one text. Boardroom. 8 a.m. Bring the paper. The boardroom is a glass box on the executive floor, and when I walk through the door at 7:58 with Marcus a step behind me, Diana looks up from her papers and does the single most telling thing she has done in the 6 weeks of this. She is surprised. She thought we wouldn't come. She thought the email would land, and Marcus would manage me. The word from that first brief, manage, and I would wait outside. She looks at Marcus. The question is in her eyes. Whose side are you on? He sits down next to me, and the question is answered. There are 8 board members. Theodore is at the far end, with the expression of a man who was hoping this would be resolved before breakfast. The others arrange themselves in the careful neutrality of people who understand that something real is happening. Diana speaks first. She is composed, precisely prepared, and she makes her argument the same way she does everything, with the appearance of objectivity and the structure of inevitability. Section 14. C. Company ownership of developed frameworks. The integrity of the S1. The roadshow timeline. She does not look at me while she speaks. She speaks to the room, to the board, to the abstraction of institutional interest. When she finishes, there is a brief silence. Vivien, Theodore says. Response? I open the folder in front of me. I take out the Lausanne paper, printed, dated, with the publication seal from the conference proceedings. I set it on the table. The Lausanne conference presentation, I say. March 14th, 2021. Published framework, public record. My employment with Ardent began September 1st, 2021. I look at Diana for the first time this morning. Section 14C covers work developed in the course of employment. It cannot govern work that preceded employment by 6 months and was publicly documented before a single conversation with this company occurred. Silence. Additionally, I say, the HBR citation and the Series D pitch deck, both of which are in your folders, show an unbroken line of attribution from the Lausanne framework to the strategy the company has been running for 4 years. The S1 doesn't need to suppress that attribution. It's the most interesting story we have. Theodore picks up the paper. He reads the date. He sets it down. He looks at Diana. Diana is very still. She is a woman who has controlled rooms for 30 years, and she is looking at me now the way she should have been looking at me for 6 weeks, not as a management problem, but as a person who has been building a case since the day Marcus Hale walked through the elevator doors. Diana, Marcus says, not unkindly but clearly. The foundation of this company's IPO story is its strategic integrity. If we suppress the origination record, we spend the next 2 years defending an attribution question in court. If we tell the true story, we go public with the most defensible competitive position in our sector. Those aren't equivalent choices. Another silence. A long one with the quality of things rearranging. I'd like to call a brief recess, Diana says. She finds me in the corridor during the recess. I am at the window, the city spread below in thin winter light, and I hear her footsteps, and I don't turn around. You've been building this since day 1, she says. It isn't an accusation. It's almost an acknowledgement. Since day 11, I say. I found out on day 11. A pause. How? You used the word managed in the November board thread. You'd never used that word about me before. It meant the frame had changed. She comes to stand beside me at the window. I glance at her. This woman I have worked alongside for 4 years, who I have respected, who has been trying to remove me with the same clean efficiency she brings to everything, and who is now standing next to me in a corridor and looking like what she is, a person who miscalculated. I wasn't trying to steal your work, she says. I was trying to simplify a narrative. I know, I say. That's almost worse. She's quiet for a moment. Outside, the city is indifferent and bright. Marcus, she says, is that professional? Right now it is, I say, and I mean it. Ask me again in 24 hours. Something moves across Diana's face. Not softness exactly, but a neighbor of it, a slight yielding in the set of her jaw. He's not what I expected him to be, she says quietly, more to herself than to me. No, I say. He isn't. She looks at me. The S1 language. Correct it, I say. Tell the true story. It's a better story. A long pause. You're right that it is, she says in the tone of someone for whom this is a significant concession, offered without further ceremony. We go back into the boardroom. The S1 amendment takes 3 days. Caroline Voss and the company's attorneys work through it, and on the 4th day it comes back with language that says, plainly and in the public record, Ardent Capital's growth strategy originates from a framework developed and published by Chief Strategy Officer Vivien Calloway, Chief Strategy Officer. Petra brings me the revised filing at 4 in the afternoon and sets it on my desk with the expression she makes when she has been right about something for a long time and is too professional to say so. They changed my title, I say. The board approved it this morning, she says. Unanimous. I read it again. Chief Strategy Officer. My name, my framework. The true story in the public record, locked before the roadshow begins. Diana voted yes? I ask. Diana moved the vote, Petra says. I set down the filing. Outside my window, the city is doing its late afternoon thing, going golden and angular, the light that only happens in the hour before dark, the kind that makes everything look like it's being seen for the first time. Go home, Petra, I say. It's 4:15, she says. I know. Go home. She picks up her bag with the efficiency of a person who has been waiting for this instruction. At the door, she turns back. For what it's worth, she says, I knew from day 3. I know you did. I didn't tell you because I thought you needed to find out yourself. I look at her. Find out what exactly? She smiles, the rare, genuine one. That some problems are worth having, she says, and she goes. I sit at my desk in the failing afternoon light, the filing in front of me, and I breathe. 6 weeks. 42 days reduced to 38 because Diana moved the timeline. 38 days of carrying the tuning fork sound in my chest, of counting, of building, of holding the line at every edge of the boardroom. And now the thing I built is mine, publicly and permanently. And in 24 hours, the roadshow narrative will go out to investors with my name where it belongs. I should feel triumphant. I feel something quieter than that. A kind of deep settling, like a ship that has been riding weather for a long time and has just found still water. The relief is not loud. It is enormous and private and mine. My phone buzzes. Marcus. Conference room. He's standing at the window when I come in, the city going dark behind him, the room lit from inside so that the glass has turned reflective, and I can see my own face arriving in the door. He turns. He doesn't say anything immediately. He does the thing I've watched him do in every meeting when he's decided to be honest. Turns the decision over once, like a stone in a pocket, checking its weight. Chief Strategy Officer, he says. Apparently, I say. I suggested the title change at the board meeting, he says. For the record. I know, Petra told me. He almost smiles. Of course she did. He moves from the window, and I am aware, have been aware for weeks, of the particular quality of the air between us when there is no agenda left, nothing to manage or protect or build, just the two of us in a room that has gone quiet around its own machinery. 25 days ago, he says, you told me the other reason had to wait. Yes, I say. It's waited. I look at him. The room is warm and still, and through the glass, the city is making its evening arrangements. The lights coming on in sequences, blue going black in the sky outside, the specific dark that arrives just before the night is fully itself. What did you tell your mother, I ask, about taking this job? He blinks, surprised, genuinely, which is a thing I find I've become fond of producing. I told her the board wanted someone to manage a difficult transition. And what are you going to tell her now? He looks at me for a long, considered moment. That the transition managed me, he says. I laugh, a real one, the unguarded kind, and it moves through the room like something has been released. He smiles at the sound of it, and it's the smile I've been cataloging since day one. Not the town hall smile, not the boardroom smile, but the one that lives behind those, the private one, the one that only comes out when he's stopped performing. I have a question, I say. All right. The Polish poet, Szymborska. What's your favorite line? He considers. I prefer the absurdity of writing poems to the absurdity of not writing poems. He tilts his head. Why? Because I've been trying to decide for 38 days, I say, whether you were a man who read poetry because it was on his mother's shelf or because he actually meant it. And I've decided you mean it, I say, which means you're dangerous in a completely different way than I planned for. He crosses the room, unhurried, the way he does everything, with the ease of a man who has stopped being wrong about the room he's in, and he reaches over and straightens my earring, the left one, the one that has always been too large, the one I've been meaning to replace for 2 years and kept not replacing. His fingers are careful against my jaw, adjusting the small, imperfect thing, and when he steps back, he is close enough that I can see the expression on his face clearly, and it is not a boardroom expression or a strategy expression. It is something much quieter and more specific than either. I think, he says, that we have an IPO to prepare for. We do, I say, and after that? I look at him, this man who came to this building to manage me, who read my white paper before he arrived, who hired outside counsel to build my case, who let Diana's calls ring out, who said "for" clearly in a coffee shop on a gray morning, who just straightened the earring I've been meaning to fix for 2 years. After that, I say, you can ask me again. He smiles. It's the private one. I'll be ready, he says. We gather our things and go out into the corridor, and the building is going quiet around us, the lights dimming in the offices one by one, the elevator arriving with its soft mechanical sound, and I don't look back at the conference room where 6 weeks of counting happened, where I built and held and won. I go forward instead, into the evening and the city and the ordinary, extraordinary fact of the next thing beginning. My earring is straight. My name is in the record. There is a man walking alongside me who reads Polish poetry because he means it, and somewhere in the building behind us, Petra has already gone home. 6 weeks later, I stand at a podium in a conference room on the 42nd floor of an investment bank, and I say, the strategy I'm about to describe originated from a simple question. What is the one thing our competitors can build around us, but never inside us? The room is 43 investors, and they are listening. Not the polite listening of people waiting for their next question, but the real kind, the kind that means something has landed. I tell them about the data moat. I tell them about the 4 years of choices, the killed product lines, the acquisition thesis, the retention architecture. I tell them the true story, in the correct language, with my name on it. Marcus is in the 3rd row. He's watching the room the way he always watches rooms, with the attention of a man who is still learning how to be in them differently, who is still revising his understanding of what they can hold. He catches my eye once, at the exact moment I say the number that makes the room lean forward, and I see the corner of his mouth move, I look back at my notes, the figures, the architecture, the story that is mine, publicly and permanently. I think of a gray November morning and a coffee shop and a man saying 4, clearly as though it were the simplest thing. I think of 42 days and a tuning fork and the specific dark blue of the sky over the city at 9:30, just before the night arrives. I think of an earring, straightened. I think, yes, that is exactly right. Let me tell you how we built it, I say, and I do.